about these relationships and, the interaction of people and connection and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I feel also haunted by this of absence. Trying to make sense of it. We moved to Nashville a few years ago because my father-in-law was sick and he passed away, and my wife is still grieving that loss. And I have two parents that mean the world to our whole family. They're really important to us, but they are aging. And every time I come home, I feel vulnerable to that in regard to their absence. And I now have two boys, and it feels like that those days are like speeding past me. And so I also know that I feel the impermanence of that as well. So I'm trying to make sense of it, I mean, it's less like I have a message as much as like I'm trying to, as someone who is wrestling with that, I'm trying to make sense of it a little bit in my life. Yeah.
Sir, earlier you mentioned a relationship between modernism and absence. I just wondered if you could elaborate on how those two ideas or themes relate for you.
Yeah, I mean, he asked me about the relationship between modernism and absence, and I don't want to turn this into like a lecture or anything, but I'll just say that I think modernism, is a break from the past, and there's a lot of ways in which we find meaning in past traditions that I think are still relevant. I don't mean to suggest that those are not a part of the conversation, but I think modernism is also looking to find meaning in other ways, and in the realm of art, I think they're trying to also explore the meaning in forms. And so let me just say this. Let me try to make it more personal and not make it too intellectual. There was a time in my life where absence. It scared the shit out of me. I was like a little kid, and I would think about death and absence, and I just wanted to run away from it. And then I wanted to find some kind of story that would make me not even have to address it. Or I just wanted to distract myself and play video games or watch TV or something so I didn't have to confront absence. And then, I did, I came from a working class immigrant family, when we were growing up. And art found me in a way when I desperately needed it, when I couldn't make sense of that. And one of the things that modern art, let's say in the cinema of this Ozu or other cinema, is it made that absence feel meaningful, like not something to run away from, but something to find poetry in. It made like that, it revealed it in ways that felt significant, in ways that I had to confront it and address it and engage it. And I think the best of modernism, for me, it's like a modernism with soul, offers that. Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, yes. John, I heard of you on NPR's Fresh Air, so congratulations on this, I consider career-defining leading role. So congratulations on everyone.
Thank you.
Listen to that piece. And I think, Kogonada, too, you're obviously a fan of the Masters. You dissected the Masters, you've been inspired by it. So for directorial debut, feature debut, fantastic. But I think the thing that I felt is, I've lived in 2 different states, but I live in Indiana a chunk of my life now, and authenticity, I think, is the biggest thing. You hear about Hoosier hospitality, but you also hear about, I think we take ourselves for granted sometimes. We might be a little too humble, and I think you really captured that within your film. And I love that you fell in love with the location and made it work. I know I read about the financing was kind of a lot of different roads to the financing, but you've caught something and you were made that happen here too. So I want to thank you. And what you said, your aim for being here, I think you captured that, and we're really pleased to have you here. And thank you so much. As opposed to saying, hey, Indiana's mentioned in a film, or there was 5 minutes of a movie filmed, whatever. You made it work. There's a lot of challenges here, and I think it really paid off. So congratulations.
Oh, cheers. Thank you so much.
See a gentleman all the way in back. Can you speak up, please?
Yes, thank you. very interested in your choice to have Casey's character work in the public library. Can you talk a little bit about how that decision came about? And I just want to add that I'm a public library director in the Chicago area at a beautiful mid-century modern building.
Wow.
If you're ever in the Chicago area, I invite you to come and just Illinois and visit me. And,
Okay. I'm going to be there next weekend. We're going to.
I invite you to come.
Okay. Now that I know that you're a librarian, I just want to say that they're the best, and that's why. No, in all honesty, I have a lot of. I'm trying to honestly say that I love librarians, and I love art. I've been visiting archives recently. In fact, is the archivist here today? Yeah, there we go. See, this is on. I was at her archives a few days ago, and I said to you, I love archivists, right? That's right. I do. I'm a really nerdy person. Not that you guys are nerdy, but I am nerdy, no doubt. And I love that world. I love people who are in those spaces. And Casey, to me, I had a very distinct sense of Casey, and it just seemed like that's where she would want. That would be one of the dream places for her to have like part-time work. Although it is hard to, it is, I did, like having that degree, I didn't make that up. I read somewhere that was the worst degree you could have.
Someone was making it work.
Yeah.
So building on a Casey character, why Deborah Burke?
I don't know if you guys know, Deborah Burke is a real person. She really designed that bank, and we got to meet her in New York. When I started researching Columbus, and I really was drawn to that bank myself. And once you read about Deborah Burke, who is this incredible female architect, which is it's not easy to be a female architect, and she's amazing, and she talks so passionately about design and architecture. And I listened to a few of her lectures, and everything I love about architecture and what I believe, this belief that it can matter, she really embodies it. And immediately I thought, if you're a young woman like Casey living in Columbus and you start feeling connected, she's your hero, and she does come back to Columbus. So yeah, almost very quickly she became a part of the narrative. Yeah.
Matt?
So back being like part of the narrative, was the fact that Casey's mom was a meth addict, did that come as when you were here in Indiana and you realized that it was like essential?
What are you suggesting?
What I'm asking is was that written into the story as part of Indiana, or was that already there?
No, that was specific. When I went to do research in Columbus, I had read an article where meth was a problem. But I knew that I wanted Casey to be working class. I knew that I wanted her to be, again, I think if you ask the question, does art matter? You don't want it to just matter for, the upper class and the coast. I think if you're genuinely asking that question, it has to matter at all levels, and so I think that was part of it.
Sir in the pink shirt?
You used a lot of scenes where the action or dialogue were taking place in another room, or was that intentional to kind of even bring the architecture of the room into focus as it was going on? Like the scene where John and Parker were on the couch, and yet it was all in the mirror.
Yeah, there were a number of things at play there, but yeah, definitely I wanted us to dwell in that space and to feel the space. Reflections were something we had talked about. John should speak to that scene because it's a tough scene because it is a single take. Again, you guys are like, these questions that we're getting from this audience, the Indiana audience, is sort of mind blowing. It's a really incredibly observant, and yeah. Anyway, all that to say, you guys, most scenes are broken down, and you do a lot of coverage, but in that scene, like a lot of scenes in the film, it's from beginning to end, and there are a lot of dynamics that they had to do. But yeah, I think how we presented the space was really important to us for those reasons. Yeah. Do you want to speak to that?
I guess I'll say that was it was the scene I remember the most, in the sense, because it was so difficult. When Parker took the role, it was she brought so much to the role that it was like I had this conception of that character, and then Parker changed it. And then that scene, there were so many, formally it was just really difficult. It required so much of both of us. It was very difficult to get there. And then I remember we finally felt like we got it, and then and then we were talking about whether we should go in for coverage, and he said, no, I think we'll stay there. I think I'll end up using this. So we don't need to go in for coverage. And I realized it was then that I realized this is a different animal. I'm working on a different film, something that I've never worked that way before. There's a young lady in a white t-shirt in the back that's been holding her hand up for a long time.
So, thank you. I just wanted to respond to what you were saying about your desire for the film to be embraced here and feel familiar. And from my point of view, I just wanted to say that's true for me. And one of the moments where I really thought that was when the characters were discussing how you can grow up around something beautiful and it means nothing to you. You don't even see it. I had to leave and go to New Jersey to grad school for art history, where my professor said, "Oh, you're going to Columbus?" And I said, "Well, why?" And I didn't know that was there. I only first did the tour and everything about 5 years ago. And so that was, it felt familiar to me in a lot of ways. So
Thanks. That's great to hear. Yeah. I think that's right. I think that's the big challenge is everydayness. To lose where things become invisible. That can be true even with your parents. You take them for granted. You walk away and you realize, oh,